Hello there, and welcome. Today, we've got a really incredible true story for you. We're going to learn how one man, way back over 2,000 years ago, figured out the size of our entire planet. Let's jump in and see how he did it.
You know, for thousands of years, people would look around them and ask a really simple but very important question. Just how big is our world? For the longest time, nobody really had a good way to find the answer.
So in this explainer, we're going to follow the story in 5 parts. We'll start with the mystery, then find a clue, check out a clever experiment, look at the math, and finally, we'll understand what it all means.
Okay, so our story begins a long time ago. Back then, there were no satellites, no modern tools at all. Trying to measure the Earth wasn't just hard. Most people wouldn't even know where to begin.
And this is the hero of our story, a man named Eratosthenes. He was a very clever Greek thinker, and he was actually the head of the famous library in Alexandria, Egypt. And he really wanted to solve that big question.
So Eratosthenes started looking for clues, kind of like a detective, and he found his first big clue by just watching the sun.
Now, to understand his clue, we need to know about something called the summer solstice. It's pretty simple, really. It's just the longest day of the year, the day when the sun gets to its highest point in the sky at noon.
Eratosthenes had a really interesting story from some travelers. They told him about a city to the south called Syene. They said something very special happened there on the summer solstice. Exactly at noon, the sun would shine straight down to the very bottom of a deep well. It didn't make any shadow at all. And that meant the sun was directly overhead.
This little piece of information gave Eratosthenes a brilliant idea. He decided he would do a simple but very clever experiment right there in his own city. So he waited for the summer solstice to arrive. At exactly noon on that day, he put a stick straight up in the ground in Alexandria. But here's the interesting part. Unlike in Syene, the stick in Alexandria actually made a small shadow. The result was different.
So why was there a shadow? This is where it gets really smart. Think about it. If the Earth were flat, the sun's light would hit both cities in exactly the same way. So there would be no shadow in Alexandria, just like in Syene. But since the Earth is curved, the sun's light hits the two cities at a different angle. And that small difference in angle is what created the shadow. This proved to him that the Earth must be curved.
Now that he was sure the Earth was curved, Eratosthenes had all the pieces he needed to actually measure it. It was finally time to do the math. He needed one more piece of information. How far apart were Syene and Alexandria? Well, people believe he hired professional walkers who were trained to count their steps to measure it. And they found that the distance was about 800 kilometers. So now he could put everything together. The idea was simple, but just brilliant. 1, he knew the Earth was a circle. 2, he had the angle from the shadow. And 3, he knew the distance between the two cities. With just those 3 things, he could figure out the size of the whole planet.
And here it is, his incredible result. His math showed that the total size of the Earth, what we call the circumference, was about 40,000 kilometers. He had actually found an answer to that ancient mystery.
So what does this discovery really mean? Well, it was so much more than just a number. It was a completely new way of understanding the world we live on.
Just look at this slide. It shows you how amazing his work really was. You can see his result, about 40,000 kilometers. And right below it is the modern measurement we have today from satellites, which is about 40,075 kilometers. I mean, he was unbelievably close. And he did it all with just a stick, a shadow, and his own brain.
Because of this amazing achievement, Eratosthenes is often called the father of geography. He was the very first person to really prove the true size of our world, and he did it with such a simple but beautiful idea. So let's end with one last thought. Eratosthenes used very simple ideas to understand something huge. It just goes to show you that you don't always need complicated technology to make an important discovery. So the question for us today is, what can we discover just by looking at the world in a new and creative way?